As I was just saying, our workshop today is all about intention and focus, and there is a free printable that went out in the email if you registered for the shop. Do you have that printed out and in front of you? Quick little side note, I don't have a printer. I'm in our new house in the city, and we barely have any furniture, let alone a printer. Okay, you guys have it printed out. That's great. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth between my screen view and my notes, since I don't normally have a printout beside me, but today all I have is handwritten notes. So if you don't have it printed either, you can do it like I'm going to do it and just take notes as you go. So really quickly, I want to start out by asking you guys, what do you think, what does it mean to you to live intentionally? What do you, when you think of the word intention, what comes to mind for you? There's the printable. Thanks, Julie. What comes to mind? Living with purpose, doing everything with purpose. Love that. A lot of people are saying purpose. That's interesting. Mindfulness. No more wasted time. Self-awareness. Being mindful and present, living the moment, taking control, stop doing things that matter, being present. That is awesome. So for those of you who have the printable, the first worksheet question on there is, what does it mean to live intentionally? And I love all of these ideas. Laura says setting and achieving goals. Intention is, so one thing came up in our team as we were preparing the webinar, is how is intention, one question we asked ourselves was, how is intention different than goal setting, or is it the same thing? And we came up with a definition that we want to share with you guys, that being intentional is making deliberate choices while thinking of the long-term effects. So it's like we have to have that end result, that idea, that outcome out there, with that idea of where we want to go. And then we need to come back to, like a lot of you guys said, being present and mindful. And we need to we sort of have to connect the dots in our own mind about how where we are today connects with where we want to go. And sometimes I think goals are, like very big picture items, and intentions are more granular, smaller things, very microscopic. I said and I have another definition I'm getting ready to share with you in a second that overlaps. But being intentional is about making deliberate choices while keeping in mind long-term effects. And another definition that we came up with this is, intention is what connects our future outcomes with our choices today. What connects our future outcomes with our choices today? Some people are saying my sound is in and out, and I don't know what to do about that. Maybe closer to the mic. I'm in an echoey room because there's not very much furniture. Hopefully, is this any better? Okay, some people say they can hear fine. That would be good. I can always pause and go grab headphones if we think that would improve things. So a couple of people are saying the sound is fine. So, okay, I'm going to keep going. There will be a recording on this. So for those of you who are having trouble with the internet connection, hopefully the recording will be catching it. Okay, so on the worksheet, so what we're working towards here today in this workshop is connecting our future desired outcome with the choices that we make today. And to do that, we need to identify the things that we need to be intentional about. So on your worksheet, the question is, what positive habits are needed to focus on the right choices each day in order to get closer to our desired outcomes? So let me just ask you to workshop this really quick. Think of a desired outcome. What is some type of desired outcome that you hope to achieve? This could be next week, it could be in a month, it could be something that you want to achieve, but you're not exactly sure on the deadline of it. But what is an outcome that you desire? Anything. From a personal standpoint right now, I'm thinking of an outcome that is there's a result. So quality time with my kids. Christy, awesome. Thanks for sharing. That is definitely something I want, but that's something I want to be doing on an ongoing basis. But what is the outcome? You want to spend quality time with your kids because the outcome that you want is a great relationship with your kids, right? Helen says she wants to turn her thesis into a job opportunity. So the outcome would be a job, write a children's book. Outcome would be a children's book. Chrissy says making memories. That's awesome. I would challenge you to get very specific about one particular memory. And the reason why it's important to get specific and focus on the outcome is because we're going to have to get very granular and very specific about our actions. We need to, whereas sometimes goals can be big picture and pretty arbitrary, being intentional, like a lot of you guys said, it's about, being very purposeful. It is very granular and very specific. Okay, so I love all the examples. Peace and harmony, sitting at my office, writing every day, push myself to make steps to setting up my own business. So the outcome that you're focusing on is getting to your business. And sometimes some of the stuff some of our problem is that we're just focusing on too much, like too big of a thing, and we need to get granular about it. So these examples, the reason I'm saying get specific, the steps to take to setting up your own business, let's just focus on one step. Making memories with your kids, let's focus on one memory, because that's where this intention comes in. Is if you get up every single day and do just one thing, you will be taking the step to making memories with your kids or setting up your own business. I recently read a book called Atomic Habits by a guy named James Clear. Excellent book. Julie was going to post a link to it, I think. The book talks about the difference between action and motion. And so when you're in motion, you're actually not making progress. You're just treading water. You're just moving. You're not actually going anywhere. When you're in action, you're making progress on something. And we want to be in action about these outcomes that we want to achieve instead of being in motion about it. But here's a little hack I do with myself. If I'm trying to make something happen, all I have to do is one tiny little thing. And I am using right now in my own life, I'm using the example of, I'm using this hashtag on Instagram called 1% now. But it's the idea that intention can be so small and so granular as long as I am making baby steps, as long as it's action and not motion. A baby step is still action. It's not motion. As long as I'm making baby steps in my daily life, which is one of the things I use my day designer for, I'm making progress on those desired outcomes or those goals. Does that make sense? So I loved that book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. And Paula says, small actions lead to large outcomes. Bam. Thank you for driving it home. And a lot of times we just focus on this big thing we want to achieve, and we pressure ourselves to put like tons of effort into these big, massive steps. And that's not what being intentional is about. Being intentional is about narrowing down one specific outcome and then making really tiny choices that lead us toward that desired outcome. So I was getting ready to give an example from my own life. My husband and I have a desired outcome that we want to achieve. And we have not been being very intentional about it. It's a business situation, and we need to be intentional and specific about things that we can do. So we're working on that. Like, we are going to sit down actually right after this webinar, and we are going to make a list of things that we can do intentionally to get the desired outcome that we want. And it's a difficult situation, so we actually have to take different, it's not just about getting to that desired outcome. It's also about how we get there, because a lot of times we need to preserve relationships as well. So one thing that we're going to have to do in this situation we're in is slow down a little bit. May not get there as fast as we like, but by slowing down and being intentional and specific about our choices, we will get to the desired outcome that we want to eventually. There's not really a deadline, whereas a lot of times some people put goals, put deadlines on goals. So that's another difference between a goal and an intention. Okay, so back to our worksheet, part 2. The question on your worksheet is, what positive habits are needed to focus on the right choice? Oh, wait, I already said that. Didn't I already say that? Oh my gosh, scroll up on my notes. Guys, let me go back. We made a list, our team made a list of tips and hacks when we were planning this webinar. So I feel like these are important to share with you guys at this point. The things that you can do that are intentional actions. This is a list of intentional actions. So here are ideas about how you can be intentional in your day. Number 1, plan your day the night before. So one thing that I've noticed is my tomorrow is always a lot more efficient if the last thing I will think about before I go to bed at night is, what do I need to do tomorrow? What is the desired outcome I want to achieve at the end of the day tomorrow? So that's one small way I can be intentional. Another way to be intentional is disconnect from my phone and my computer. So hard to do. We just finished building this house, and we actually put a charging station in the mudroom. So I'm anticipating my kids becoming teenagers and having phones, and we do not want everyone to be sitting around looking at their phones all the time. So I was intentional about putting a charging station in the house, and this morning I needed to focus on some stuff, and I just came down here, plugged my phone in very far away. It was an intentional action. Yes, it feels like I'm going to miss something, but you know what? We used to not have phones, so it'll be fine. Limit our distractions. So you can put your phone in airplane mode. You can turn off notifications on your computer, your email notifications, things like that. Setting a timer is another way to add in intention in your day. If you're trying to, so for the person who, I think it was Laura, who gave the example of you want to make steps towards starting your business, maybe one small action step you can make in that is setting a timer and just doing the next thing. It might even just be research, but that is an action. If you don't know where to go file the registration documents for your state, for business, small business ownership in your state, maybe that's what you need to do next, is just sit there and Google that. So 10-minute timer, and voila, you're done. Write that thing down that you just accomplished in your day designer as progress, count it as progress, and put a check mark beside it. Other things that we can be intentional about, saying no, which is super hard. I know all too well it's hard to say no. I am in a season right now where I've said yes to a lot, and I know these seasons, and what happens next is I sort of have to come behind and start saying no to some stuff, and I know I'm there. I need to be aware of that. And oh, somebody says put their Skype on Do Not Disturb. The next thing you can do to be intentional is just get everything out of your head and onto paper. And this is good for those really big projects as well. My main business right now is consulting. I do a little bit of interior design on the side, but whenever I was moving more deeply into consulting, and I needed to do a lot of stuff, not just setting up a business, but also figuring out how to market it and things like that, I actually kept a journal where I just wrote everything down that in a million years I would think of I needed to do. Like ideas were lumped together with action steps, but they were all in one place as a reference for me so that when I was stuck, I could just go grab that book and be like, okay, what do I need to do next? Because the big stuff is daunting. I've been there very recently, and I know that. Other things that you can do to be intentional, declutter your space. I am doing and sharing on Instagram for the next 3 weeks a decluttering challenge on my personal Instagram on Whitney English. And I have listed 32 areas in our home and in our lives. And I am walking people through how I've decluttered all those spaces in my stories. So, and even with moving, I am still decluttering a lot. So it's just crazy, the clutter and how it builds up. Another way you can be intentional is by eliminating bad habits. Yesterday on my Instagram, I posted, I'm doing this 1% now thing, and it's tips about things that we can do now, very small things that we can do. Like I want people to be able to read on Instagram and do these things as they read. And I posted, deny yourself one thing that you want today. And it got like 26 likes, you guys, which I was thinking about, why did that get, that's not very many likes. I was like, why did that get so few likes? And I realized that we're not in a culture right now in America where we're very into denying ourselves things. We love this idea of indulging ourselves, calling it self-care, which I don't think indulgence is self-care, but that's another workshop entirely. But it's just not very popular to think about denying ourselves something we want. And we don't need to deny ourselves something that we need. If we need to de-stress, we need to de-stress. Like that is, de-stressing is important. It extends your lifespan. Nutrition is important. Like all of those are needs, not wants. But there are tons of things that I want to do on a daily basis that are not intentional. Like, and I've used this example in our day designer workshops in the past, but I want to leave my shoes laying around. I want to leave my bed unmade. I want to drink my coffee before I brush my teeth. Which sometimes means if I'm drinking coffee all morning, I haven't brushed my teeth until noon, and that's gross. So one way to eliminate bad habits is to simply deny ourselves the indulgence of doing what we want to do. That's what I was trying to explain in my Instagram post. And I guess I just didn't go quite out there. But stopping bad habits often means starting good ones. And so I need to brush my teeth first thing when I get out of bed every morning. I need to put my shoes in one spot every time I take them off. And those are intentional choices that I have to make about those things on a regular basis. Another thing, and this sort of came from the James Clear Atomic Habits book as well, is that if we are not proactively trying to stop bad habits, we are by default creating them. So I'll say that again. If we are not proactively trying to eliminate and stop bad habits from our life, then by default, we are creating bad habits in our life. So that's a whole different, like I'm about to rabbit trail down there, and I probably should stop and go back to the list of things, but just tuck that away for yourself as a little takeaway for this webinar. We have to be intentional about creating good habits so that the bad habits don't run our lives. Other things being intentional about, I just briefly mentioned this, taking care of ourselves, making sure that we're de-stressing, good mental health practices, meditation, therapy, nutrition, all of that stuff. And then another thing we could be intentional about is stop multitasking. And that can kind of go to turning off notifications on your phone. If you have kids, I have 3 kids, and sometimes multitasking feels like it's impossible to stop, because as soon as I get started on one thing, I am pretty much guaranteed to be interrupted. And I love having my kids around. So one way I stop multitasking as a mom is I plug my phone in the charging station and walk away from it and just be present with my kids and really focus on them. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the next part of the worksheet, part 3. The worksheet question on this is, what is one thing you want to see happen in your life this year? So we briefly talked about that earlier, that one desired outcome that you want to achieve. I gave you an example of a business situation I'm in that my husband and I have to work on. In terms of this year, one thing that I want to see happen in our life is I just want our lives to be simpler. There is, my word for the year is beauty, and I am also really I feel challenged this year to try to explain that, especially to my social media following, the people who follow me on Instagram. So everything needs to come back to that desired outcome. And one thing that you can do in your planner, if you have a day designer, there is a spot, and on the monthly overview page, there is a spot for you to make notes in the left-hand column. And I always put the things I need to be focusing on in that column, so that when I'm looking at my monthly overview, I can really quickly glance at that left-hand column and ask myself, are the things that I'm doing in my week, in my month, in my day, are the things that I'm doing leading me back to those desired outcomes that I want? So sometimes in that left-hand column, I have projects that I'm working on. Maybe they're not consistent projects, maybe it's something that I'm working on every other week or something like that, and I just need to remind myself to be focusing on that. Projects, values, like my word of the year is beauty, so that word is in that column this month. I'm trying to think of other things I put: projects, values, but anything I want to, a desired outcome that you want for that month, or a desired outcome that you're trying to create for the year. Okay, somebody said, Chrissy, that sounds brilliant. Chrissy said, I have an interior design degree and I'm petrified of starting the consulting business in the LA area. I would love to do it, but something is stopping me. Oh yeah, the limiting beliefs thing is so hard. But Chrissy, I would encourage you or anybody else who is trying to accomplish a really big thing in your life to just be, it's like, let's take this intentional, granular approach to things and get very specific about our next steps and actions that we can take. Somebody says, can you explain more about how you prioritized beauty in your monthly view, like with examples of what you schedule and say no to? So it's more like, for me, that's my word of the year. So I'm just trying to figure out how to tie that in to everyday life. So, and it does, and I'm doing this 1% now thing, this idea about everything I do, just spend an extra 1% of time and energy and effort on it. So one thing is on the self-care angle of things, it's getting up and doing my skincare routine, putting makeup on hopefully most days, spending some time tidying the space that I'm in, decluttering the space that I'm in. All of these things lead to a more attractive, beautiful life, and it's just a little bit of extra effort that I'm having to apply to weave that in. In terms of scheduling, I could look at I haven't done this yet, but here's an example of just how you could tie a value in with your monthly planner, but just looking at it and thinking, okay, so someone is asking me, I'm trying to think of the last thing I scheduled. Is my schedule full? Is that appointment that I'm getting ready to set going to create beauty in my day, or is it going to create havoc and chaos? So if your word for the year was joy, you could put that on every month, and you could say, is this event that I'm about to schedule going to bring me joy in life? So y'all are, Elise said, I want to have more recognition professionally. A designer and technologist, and want to start freelance work. The goal seems huge, but I'm working on making progress each week. That is awesome. I love the encouragement you guys offer to each other in these webinars. Okay, so in part 4, breaking it down, the question on your worksheet is, to make this one thing happen in your life, what will you choose each week or each day? So think about that desired outcome that you want to achieve, and then I would love it if you guys would share one teeny tiny action that you think you can do to that will help you achieve your desired outcome. And if you guys will share that with each other, you read in the chat box all of your desired outcomes up there earlier. So I would love it if you would share, one tiny thing. The thing here is start small. All it has to be is an action. Be vocal about sharing your goal. I love it. Just tell somebody. Tell somebody, and then what is your next step? Kiana, I hope I said your name right. What is your next step? Yelena, what can you do to achieve balance? Say no. Like, think about the action. Think about the action that you can do. A more detailed routine and less clutter. So each day I plan on spending 10 minutes doing a quick pickup. Love it. And I plan to start my day every day at the exact same time in order to help him with that comfort. I love that for your son. That's so good. To break it down even further, I would recommend just, you could just pick one thing and just do it tomorrow. Like, just tomorrow. Like, just, again, like let's set ourselves up for success by starting super small. We don't have to say, I'm going to do this in perpetuity. I just said that funny. All we need to do is say, I'm just going to do this tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'm going to get up and I'm going to brush my teeth first thing. Yeah, don't go big and overwhelm yourself. The endless to-do list task, maybe one thing you're going to do is you're going to set a to-do list for today. 3 things. You have a top 3 in your day designer, and just do those 3 things today. And then force yourself to stop because you did those 3 things. And you know there's a master list out there somewhere. You can do that tomorrow, and we don't have to do it all today. We do not have to do it all today. MRM says, the words on my screen are tiny, says you're growing your social media business, so post daily. I actually keep a separate weekly day designer for my daily social media postings, and sometimes I don't post. It's so hard, but by looking at my progress on a daily basis, I'm just thinking about, can I do that tomorrow? Can I post something tomorrow? What can I post tomorrow? And social media is a big part of daily life. Another thing you can be intentional about is, this just came to my mind. It's sort of been rumbling around. You have those thoughts that are rumbling around in the back of your mind, is rest, you guys. My husband and I typically work on weekends. He's a realtor. People look at houses on weekends. We co-own a coffee shop and bed and breakfast. That leaves us working on weekends, and sometimes that completely kills my Monday. And the reason why it kills my Monday is because I realize I have not had any rest. So one thing that we can do to achieve rest in our lives is say no to things. Another thing that we can do to achieve rest in our lives is set aside a day for rest. A lot of people do this on Sunday, or they take a Sabbath. Law says going to bed consistently. Love that. But figure out what works for you, or figure out what one thing you want to do, and then just focus on doing that one thing that will get you to your desired outcome. A morning meeting just for me. Yeah, a lot of us feel bad if we say no. But the expense, like the opportunity cost on saying yes, is our own personal quality of life, you guys. And that's a big opportunity cost. When I start thinking about the quality of life I want for myself and my family, there's not a whole lot of room for a ton of yeses in that. And my family is more important to me than the people who are asking, who are asking me to say yes. So one thing that you could do intentionally if you're struggling with saying no is um, just say no to something once a day. It kind of goes back to the self-discipline of like, it could be, you could be saying no to yourself. Like, I'm just going to deny myself that one little indulgence that I, think I deserve. We're just such a yes, everything all in has to be big or go home society. And sometimes the more what's that? There's that old adage. It's never crowded on the extra mile, or you could add the high road. Like just the less is more. Taking the less is more approach to things. I am preaching to myself, by the way. Oh, I love it. Jessica says no to social engagements every other weekend. So hard. I know stuff happens where somebody's going to be like, oh, I want you to come to dinner or whatever. And you're just going to have to say no. And actually, my husband has trouble saying no more than I do. And we've talked about how the first time we say it to somebody, it's hard. The second time we say it, we feel like we've commanded their respect. And people do respect you more when you set boundaries. And so it doesn't keep people from asking as long as we say yes, like every third time. Or for social engagements, one thing that we say is invite and be invited. So if we've had to say no to an invitation, several times in a row, we just make sure we keep extending an invitation back to them until schedules sync up. Paula says, replace indulgences with something more beneficial to you in the long run. Absolutely, that is genius, Paula. Thank you for saying that. That is the whole idea about being intentional. The indulgences are very temporary. Like the stuff that we think we deserve tends to bring a temporary satisfaction. We feel like we deserve a massage, or we deserve, but we really deserve, what our bodies really deserve is our best. And sometimes it takes a long-term focus to achieve that. The workout isn't going to make a change overnight. It is going to extend your life and keep you healthier in the process, help you feel better in the process. Debbie says scheduling 15 minutes for meditation. Love it. Debbie, I would just encourage you to just today, look at your schedule tomorrow and schedule that 15 minutes in right now. And then tomorrow, look at your schedule the next day and schedule that in. So I would say one of my challenges to you guys today is don't say you're going to do it. Like you said you're going to do this. Okay, do it. Go do it. Go do one small thing right now. And I didn't know I was going to do this, but I'm just going to throw this out there. And then tell me what you just did. Text someone and tell them no. Put that thing that you want to do in your planner tomorrow. If you need, I'm reading comments. If you need a morning routine and evening routine, really quickly on a piece of paper, just write down 3 things that are going to go into that morning routine or that evening routine. Block off, Jessica, go to your planner and block off 4 to 7 on the first available day that you can. Love that. Ruth Bader Ginsburg did that. And stay true to it. Yep. I just blocked off 10 minutes this afternoon to pick up my mudroom. Awesome, Laura. Satisfaction of checking off what you wrote down in your planner is, oh yeah, is so good. That's a dopamine release for you right there. Like addict level stuff. In fact, that is a hack that I use, just side note, in my day if I'm having trouble feeling motivated, is I call it a have done list. And in my day designer, I will just start writing down, instead of writing down things to do, I will write down things that I've done and put a check mark beside them. And normally after 5 or 10 minutes of doing that, just kind of thinking through what I've already accomplished, I start to feel more productive, and then I become more productive. And I'll typically get up and go check a bigger item off the list after that. Sometimes I just do it for the mental encouragement at the end of a day. If a day feels like it's really gone off the rails, I'll make a have done list to prove to myself that I actually did make progress, because it's important mentally for us to be kind to ourselves and give ourselves the credit for the effort extended. So that's not necessarily about intention, but a little hack I use. A workout is a must almost daily. Cook from scratch more veggies for my family every night. So love that. So I would just say, like, go to the grocery store right after this webinar and buy some fresh veggies. Don't buy like a ton, just like buy some carrots. Cook those tonight for dinner. So what we achieve when we just focus on these very small intention things, like how can I be intentional in my next moment, or how can I be intentional in my day, is we start to create a snowball effect. And when we make one good choice and follow through on our intention, we're setting ourselves up for more success on the next one. And one thing that will sabotage us, and this goes back to be kind to yourself, is if you miss something. I don't know about you, but I spent years beating myself up for the mistakes I made. If I remember one time after I realized this, I had been to a week-long therapy intensive at a place called Onsite right outside Nashville, and I started to realize how much of a perfectionist I was. And I was standing in front of the refrigerator and I dropped something and it broke on the floor. And I said, like out loud, I said to myself, it was like, Whitney, you screwed it up again. And I had been talking to my husband about this idea about being kinder to myself whenever something didn't go the way I had planned for it to go. And he actually kind of corrected me on that. And he was like, no, you didn't screw it up. You made a mistake. Mistakes happen. Move on. And I didn't realize, I wasn't actually conscious of how much I was berating myself in my head about things that hadn't gone my way. And so I would encourage you, if you set this intention today and a week from now, the intention's still not happening, I would encourage you to realize that, just encourage yourself by realizing that you can always start again tomorrow. And you can always start again right now. You can always get up and go do something. So for the person who said, I want to go for a 20-minute walk today, you could get up and walk around the room that you're in. You could go, do the stairs if you're in an office. Those of you who said, like, I want to read 10 minutes tonight. It's just about being intentional, being purposeful, being aware enough to realize that these little things can all add up into this big snowball effect. And I'm looking at my notes to see if there's anything. Oh, part 5 and 6. So these two, I'm going to talk about together here. The worksheet question on number 5 is, how can you best plan for those intentions and stay focused on that day? So we've already talked about writing this stuff down in your planners. And again, I wouldn't fill it up, because for me, I have to have flexibility in my day. If I plan out a schedule down to the final minute, I know I'm not gonna hit all those points. I'm not gonna hit all those appointments, and I'm gonna feel like beating myself up at the end of that. We've talked briefly about monthly overview. And using that left-hand column for projects, or writing down your desired outcome, or writing down a value that you want to focus on that. That is a great place to, on your monthly overview is a great place to write it, because we all have days that get wacky and out of control. And I feel like for me, writing it on my monthly overview helps me keep going back to that. It helps keep me focused on that intention. If you have a week planner, you can do the same thing. And in case you haven't heard, Day Designer is releasing a weekly planner in 2 weeks. And it is so awesome, you guys. There are a ton of really cool extras in it. You're really going to like it. You're probably going to want to, not going to lie. It's really, really, really cool. Like there's extra tabs for fun checklists and stuff like that. There's a lot of content in the back. So if you like a good worksheet, you're going to love the weekly planner. Okay. And just make sure you're following the Day Designer on Instagram for more notifications on that. You can actually turn on your notifications on Instagram by going to the ... on that person's profile and say, notify me when they post to their story or their feed. Okay, and then part 6, the worksheet question on this is, when it comes to living intentionally and focusing on what's most important, how can you better utilize your planner? So we've talked about this briefly. A planner is just a huge tool in helping us stay focused on how we want to live intentionally. Keeping that one desired outcome as a focus on your month is going to, when you look, anytime you look at your monthly overview, I don't look at my monthly overview every day, but I do look at it whenever I'm trying to, I typically put all my appointments on my monthly overview and then draft them over to the daily stuff. I have started using my planner this year for mapping out a lot more daily stuff, like all my social media content through the end of the year already in my planner. And I'm having to give myself a lot of grace with that, because on days where things go haywire and I miss a post or 4 posts, as some days are pretty stacked up, I just have to remind myself that I can keep going, and it's going to be okay, that it's not about perfection. Progress, not perfection, right? That's on the walls at Facebook. I think that's where that phrase came from. There are some check boxes at the bottom of the worksheet that you can just like read through these things to give you ideas on how to be more intentional. So color coding, I'm getting ready to release a small business course for entrepreneurs, and color coding is a big thing that I use in different areas of my life. So I would recommend, it just makes things easier. Color code. I have these little pens I love called Tool, T-U-L, and I ordered the full color set. And you can just go to the front of your planner and draw little boxes and be like, orange is for work, and turquoise is for personal, and purple is for kids, or whatever. But that really just helps me. Your top 3, like thinking about how you can be intentional with your top 3. I have a friend who uses her top 3 for the same thing every single day. I think it's drink water, go for a walk, or go for a run, and then make her bed. And she writes those same 3 things, despite the fact that it's probably like well ingrained as a habit right now. She knows that if she knows herself well enough, like she's self-aware enough to know that if she does those 3 things daily, that the rest of her day will really stay on track, which is just amazing. So anyway, there's some other ideas down there on those check boxes for giving you ideas for how you can use your planner to find focus and therefore be more intentional. So that's it, you guys. I feel like without a printer, without my hard copy printed out, that this was a little bit harder for me than normal, but I really enjoyed spending this time with you. I thank you guys so much for engaging. I can answer any questions right now. I've got a few minutes. Terry says where to order color coded. Oh, where to order the pens? Is that what you mean? So goals versus intentions. Let me get back to my notes. So intention is more about what you want for yourself, like a desired outcome. that you want to achieve through mindfulness and awareness. A lot of you guys said at the very beginning that self-awareness is required for intention. I would say that, like, we can put a goal down on paper, assign a deadline to it. I'm not really big on deadlines for goals, but that's another workshop entirely. Or you can go back actually and watch some of our workshops from the Day Designer workshops from December and January. I talked a lot more about goal setting then. And on the pens thing, I think I have those linked from like in my Instagram highlights on mine. I love them, or I will link to them on Amazon later. Julie can. Okay. Goal setting versus intention. Popping around. Intention just requires more mindfulness. It's still about a desired outcome, which a goal is also about a desired outcome, but it's more granular. A lot of time, like when we were doing the goal setting webinars, a lot of time people said they just really had trouble breaking something down. But when you focus on an intention, I would almost go so far as to say it's about the next best thing, taking action on the next best thing. So that's going to mean any combination of actions, but the idea of focusing on something super small and then celebrating that as action and progress is going to create the snowball effect that will help make far more progress on your desired outcome than you would otherwise think. So, and we talked through types of actions like saying no, setting boundaries, blocking out other things, turning stuff off, putting your phone away. Like that's intentional stop stuff, and there can also be intentional start stuff. Again, very granular. If you're trying to accomplish a goal of running a 5K, maybe it's going for a walk one day a week. Maybe it's even smaller than that. Actions can be super, super, super small. So I hope that helps that, living intentionally. And it also just having an intention, a weekly, daily, monthly intention, it just helps hone your focus on that desired outcome. Okay. Any other questions? Schedule and/or post a topic for be kind to yourself and allow failures. Yeah, like there's a book, I've never read it, but I love this. I love the title. It's called Failing Forward. And I've also heard, life coaches and gurus and stuff talk about failing faster. So failure leads to progress. And, I have a friend, Bob Goff, who's an author, and he says, quit stuff. Like, what can you quit? Like, it's Thursday, quit something. It's like this whimsical little thing he does. So yeah, allow failures and be kind to yourself when they happen, or make them happen and be proud of them. Like, that's a crazy concept, right? Yeah, get good rest, sleep. I love everything y'all are saying. Lauren, my business course is geared toward people who are interested in putting systems in place for their business. And you can find out more about that by following me on Instagram at Whitney English. I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Yeah, I think a paradigm shift on failure would help the majority of us. I even have days, I have learned over time to embrace failure, and I even have days where I'm like, I feel like a failure and I don't know how to get out of that feeling. That's probably also a whole nother workshop. So if there's any more questions, I would be happy to answer them. But I would just like to say in closing, thank you guys again for joining me. The next webinar it was up there. Julie posted it. It's on a Wednesday in April 17th at 11 a.m. Central Time. we typically always do 11 a.m. Central Time because that works well for, and Wednesdays because that works well for my family schedule. Okay, so thank you guys again so much. I will look forward to seeing you next month in the next Day Designer webinar. And in the meantime, you can follow at the Day Designer on Instagram, because at the very least, you're going to want to know more about that weekly planner. It's super cool. Okay, thank you guys for sharing your time with me. I'll see you guys in the next webinar.